Good morning, college baseball fans. Another great week in college baseball. Maybe not for Mark, but for everybody else. Uh, Shout out to Jake with the Ole Miss Rebels jersey this morning. As you all know, I'm an Ole Miss lifer. Huge sweep of LSU last week, and our host, our normal guy, production guy Alex, has taken the week off due to embarrassment. So we can talk about it all show if we want to, and we will.
Oh man, two teams going on here. My Beavers are struggling. Their first back-to-back loss of the season, and now they've done it 4 straight. And Stanford has officially clinched the Pac-12. Really crazy last 2 weeks here, just to see a little bit of the struggles of a young team trying to figure this thing out. Beavers only have one senior on that roster. It's showing a little bit of this age there. I think they're getting a little tired, a little tough down the end of the season here. So hopefully they can turn around today and then figure it out come Pac-12 tournament. What are you seeing out there, Jake?
Yeah, it is kind of looking almost like a tale of two teams with the Beavers lately. I don't think any of us had even Stanford on our radar. I think I picked Oregon to come from behind. And it feels like ever since they swept Oregon in 4 straight, that almost felt like their Super Bowl, as Texas fans like to say. And they really haven't looked like the same team. They've gotten really complacent. I feel like they're not having very good at bats, at least when I've watched them down the stretch here.
Yeah, they just can't get that big hit. I mean, they left, another 14 guys on base last night, and they just can't seem to get the hit that in clutch times. When Boyd came up and hit that game-tying home run that was crushed to left, we're all cheering in the stands. We're like, okay, this is when they get over the hump. They're going to even the series here, and then they just never scored another run. And they had guys in scoring position in 3 of the next, 5 innings, and they just couldn't do anything. It was really strange to watch.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about it. We saved the Pac-12 this year. Who can watch them, though? We were talking last night. It's getting absolutely absurd that these great matchups between UCLA, who's right on that 2-3 line, probably looking at a 2 seed now, and then Oregon State, who is probably locked into a top 8 seed, but who knows if this slide continues. We can't watch them. You have to go on your backwards, maybe the black market, and say, how can I get this game? And it's absurd. You found out that Stanford won the Pac-12 by accident. It's just, oh, hey, they won the Pac-12 tonight. I'll take your word for it. It's getting a little bit ridiculous when the Pac-12, we talk about them, hey, maybe they're up there with not the ACC this year, but the ACC normally, right in that second spot. But we can't watch them.
Yeah.
We love the Pac-12 here, but who watches Utah baseball? It's impossible.
Yeah, and the talent is there. You should be a key conference in baseball. And the fact that they're just not even getting out and getting ahead of this and trying to broadcast a better product for these people, it's all about a money grab. They're just tying in with certain TV deals. They don't want to be seen. It's embarrassing. It really is. And you have a whole market at night. People are dying for college baseball at night on the East Coast, and you could give it to them with Pac-12 After Dark, and they do nothing. They don't spotlight these games. They don't pump them up. They don't put out the best teams. And, like you said, I've watched every SEC team play this year. I'm a West Coast guy. I have the Pac-12 network, and I have struggled to try to find every Pac-12 game. That's embarrassing when I can go out and I can watch, a McNeese State play tomorrow versus watching, Utah or Arizona State trying to catch these middle-of-the-road teams so I can figure out if we can do anything to help there. It's really frustrating, especially as a West Coast guy trying to promote these games and being like, hey, come watch this. And people are like, oh, can't, sorry. Guess you have to tell me how it's going on Twitter.
Yeah, and I find myself watching Hawaii baseball more than, UCLA or Arizona or any of those teams in that scale, because Hawaii makes it so easy. Their broadcasts are so good. They're lots of fun. And the flip side of that is the Pac-12 feels very cheap. Like, I forget who I watched play earlier, but I want to say Arizona State, Oklahoma State. Marquee game, 2 great programs. And it felt like my high school broadcasting, 4th period, Mr. Johnson's class, out there talking about the game. It felt very cheap. It felt very rushed. And Oregon State and all these teams, they have great stadiums. They have good setups. There's no reason why they shouldn't be there, especially with all the broadcasters, out in California and everything. And it just feels very rushed and very cheap. It almost feels like an SEC track event where it's just an afterthought that they're like, oh, I guess we got to play baseball, throw something in there.
Yeah, when you watch the USC Arizona or Oregon State series this year, I did, and you could only see half the field. It's like, how do we not even get 4 cameras out there? The 3 of us could go out there with our camera phones and have headsets in and do a better job of calling the game and video recording the game. It's really embarrassing for the Pac. And just like I said, not being able to get out there nationally, not promoting these guys. I mean, it's really the Pac-12's fault as to why there's not better programs out there and why the Pac-12 is not sought out as a better baseball conference.
At the beginning of the year, I was trying to watch Arizona State. I want them to be back so badly. There's no team in the country that I want to see back in Omaha more than Arizona State. The Sun Devil name is so cool. The logo's cool. Great stadium. Seems like they have a pretty good amount of fans. Can't watch them. Can't watch them though. They're playing these great teams, and like Oklahoma State, I know that they carried that one. But then they have some goober who's never watched baseball in his life before on the call. Can't we get anybody? Arizona State is one of the greatest programs in college baseball history, and we're having the guys from Mr. Johnson's fourth grade class out there.
Yeah. And speaking of games, again, last night, Oregon and Arizona are playing, middle of the day game, perfect day game. Nobody's talking about it. Oregon just took over, and now they're going to be the 4 seed over Arizona, who's a very good ball club, who's coming in hot. And nobody's talking about that. Nobody cares because they can't watch the games. They don't get to see the games. And, the atmosphere is getting hot right now, and people are really excited about Pac-12 baseball with the inaugural tournament coming up. But nobody can watch the games anywhere else but on the West Coast, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't even know where to put Oregon State when I'm making some of these tournament predictions. I know more about the Campbell Camels than I do about Oregon baseball. Like, are they a 3? Are they a 2? I couldn't even name you a single player on their team, other than when they played Oregon State, and I watched that series just because I felt like Oregon State's kind of an anomaly with baseball. But yeah, Oregon is a premier team. They're one of the best programs, I feel like, with money-wise, and they're not even being talked about on a national scale.
Yeah, Stanford just won the conference, and how many Stanford games did anybody watch other than, diehard Pac-12 fans? And Oregon State was talked about so high all year, so they got a lot of TV publicity. The rest of the conference did nothing. Stanford just won the conference. Oregon State can finish 3rd today if they don't beat UCLA. Nobody watched UCLA or Stanford all year. It's just frustrating.
Yeah, I feel like most people haven't even thought about UCLA since they were in that preseason tournament in Texas. It's impossible. And then you look at it, and it shows in the rankings. When you have all these national rankings of guys who only watch maybe 1 or 2 games a week, like Baseball America, people have been sleeping on Stanford for far too long. There was a time where we were ranking them, and I don't think they ever fell out of our rankings. If they did, they maybe did for a week. But they were out of a lot of national polls for 3-4 weeks for a while, and this is a top 20 team, and now they're going to be top 5.
Yeah, and the RPI shows that they're a good ball club. They've done everything we've asked them to do, and nobody's watching. That's the problem, is that these national supposed, rankings, nobody watches them, so they have no idea what they're actually doing, how they're doing. I'm going to talk more about them when we get into our hottest teams, but it's insane to me that this West Coast is not being talked about more. It's just, yeah, and, it's going to hurt teams like Gonzaga, too. People are just checking box scores, so if they lose a game, they're not going to get a host, and that's ridiculous. They're definitely a top 16 team this year.
I think maybe I hear they're going to move UConn to the West Coast just so we can keep that trend with them.
Move UConn
They
and
lost
over here.
They lost last night too, so UConn might be in jeopardy there of hosting. They might even be out because that Georgetown team.
UConn's a 2 seed. They'll go somewhere and it'll be something, but the one that's really frightening to me is Maryland keeps climbing up. They're number 3 in the RPI now. As much as I don't love watching Maryland ball, they're going to host. We haven't put them in any of our top 16 ranks for hosting. I think that they're going to knock out one of those SEC bottom tier teams. I think that they're going to be hosting now.
Yeah, with Vandy kind of slipping. They're almost stealing that Vandy spot.
I believe so.
Maryland's got 2 great starters, Ryan Ramsey and Jason Savakul. Hard to beat that in a regional setting.
Yeah, and they've been putting up runs lately too. So they're not just doing it with the arms, but it will be something to watch those arms against some top tier hitters versus what they're seeing in the mediocre 10 up there.
Yeah, it's really hard to get excited for the Big Ten tournament, which is in the city that I live in. But if it's Maryland Rutgers in that Big Ten championship, I'll for sure be there. But I don't know if I can muster up the courage to go see Maryland play Indiana.
I don't know. Penn State's underrated. They beat Pitt this week too. So who knows? Maybe the Big Ten. We've just been sleeping on them all year. It's finally getting warm, and they're getting to practice outside, so they're getting used to those ground ball bounces.
I think the Big Ten is an 8-bit league now. They're all getting in.
Oh man.
Speaking of getting in, how about the hottest teams heading into the conference tournament? Mark, who you think?
This one's super easy, and we've been talking about them all morning. Stanford. Since May 1st, they've won 11 straight games. They have taken over and they have won the Pac-12 regular season conference. In the last, they were 25-14. Now they're looking at 36-14. They're going to be vying for a national seed here. They're going to try to get a top 8 seed, and I believe that they deserve it with their RPI and their wins of lately and winning the Pac-12. They've outscored their opponents in the last 11 games, 118-37. So they are putting it on people. They are showing that they have it on offense. Their arms have come alive. It is a dangerous team. Nobody's going to want to go to the Sunken Diamond right now.
Yeah, I think that's going to be one of those ones where a lot of these SEC or AC teams are going to be very eye-opening because it always feels like that's one of those, cathedrals of baseball. And then it's going to go and look like, Madison Central High School out there. It's really not a very nice stadium at all.
No,
and they really have looked really good the last couple of weeks. I know that they were kind of an under the radar team that a lot of us didn't talk about, but they kind of showed that this was the team that, went in and beat Arkansas in a game and shut them out 5-0. They are one of the better teams, I think, in the country, and especially with how kind of it seems like the Best Coast is down so much this year. Stanford might even be better than they lead on just because they haven't really played a lot of these, like Arizona State's down, USC's down. I don't think UCLA is very good either. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of where their barometer is because it seems like they did kind of disappear after they came and did their Texas tour.
People don't really realize that Stanford was a wild pitch away from playing for a national championship because with the cancellation in there, they would have gotten that bump if they beat Vanderbilt. I don't think anybody would have been down on Stanford at all if they had been playing against Mississippi State or maybe even beating them.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I think that they're playing like that team that was right there on the cusp last year. They've brought that back. Early season they had some good success. Then middle season they struggled a little bit. They've come back. They have a lot of freshmen that are getting out there, getting some playing time mixed in with that veteran leadership. They're a very dangerous team to make an Omaha run.
And we talked about it earlier too, that is the time that you want to slump is kind of that, March, April window. And they really are peaking at the right time going into tournament time, that this is kind of how they set up their season. I know that they probably don't ever want to lose, but if you're picking where to lose, that was probably the best time to pick.
Couple teams I want to touch on: Virginia Tech and A&M. Shout out to two of Jake's favorites. VT won 9 ACC series in a row. Ever since Jake started talking about them, they have not lost. So shout out to our friends who we heard they watched the program. You guys might be the number 2 team in the country on Monday. Don't blow it.
Don't blow it. I know they are busting out a new hammer today because their hammer broke last night. DeMartini, I guess, smashed it a little too hard after the home run. But with Miami and Notre Dame kind of falling back, they're going to be the safest pick in the ACC come tournament time because ever since that series loss at Georgia Tech and then that Friday opener against Pitt, they have been probably one of the most dominant teams outside of Tennessee in the entire country, let alone the ACC. And they really are making the ACC look easy. And it's not as easy as they've made it seem because a lot of these other teams are losing to, quote unquote, lower tier ACT teams. And it's not Virginia Tech's case at all. It seems like every time they go out, they take 2 or 3, get on the bus, bang the hammer, let's go home.
It's a good problem to have when you're breaking your home run hammer. That means they're going right. They're a very good ball club. They very well should be the number 2 team in the nation, probably coming out on Monday and heading into the ACC tournament, which is going to be electric. Much better than the crappy SEC tournament. So why don't you tell us some more about that A&M program there, Noah?
Well, A&M is just so hot. We know how they've just risen up our rankings. For a while, I think we all doubted them. We all kind of wanted to hang on. Oh, A&M sucks because it's what Jake told us for so long. And they were losing to Penn. And now, ever since they beat Arkansas, we're believers. And they have not lost an SEC series since. You can't stop them. I don't see a way that A&M loses a game the rest of the season, especially today against Ole Miss. They've already won that series in Oxford. Huge series win for them. And then they're going to go right through Hoover. We're talking about maybe the number one national seed if things fall the right way. Just trying to jinx A&M. A&M's not that good, but they're still are mighty good. Jake, you do not talk about your Aggies enough because you're scared.
I'm very, very scared. Every time I've ever given A&M an ounce of credit, they seem to just go out and lose it. So I'm still reverse jinxing you today with the Ole Miss jersey. But, as an A&M fan, you really have to feel good about how they've been playing down the stretch. The clutch hitting has been amazing. It seems like they're coming from behind in a lot of wins. And, the bullpen that kind of seemed like a win in a prayer does just enough, it seems like, to keep the Aggies in it. And then their bats get hot at the right time. I know Mississippi State's not going to be in Hoover, so I'm not going to sit here and say that was such a great series for A&M because it's not the Mississippi State that was last year. But they were down in just about every single game, some of them by more than 2 or 3 runs. And it seemed like they never lost fight and always came up with the big hit when it counted with Rock and Clouch and everything. And Minfrey out of the bullpen, I do have to give him a lot of props because I was holding my breath every single time the Aggie bullpen strolls out there, and they really have proved me wrong in most games this season.
Yeah, I gotta say, Yeski's really got those guys believing in that bullpen. They don't have, when you look at it, they don't have the major league arms. They're not really super talented down there. They don't have great stuff, but they're getting outs and they're getting through these ball games and they're getting wins. And that's all you can really do come tournament time. As long as you're competing and you believe that you can do it, that's a big deal.
No disrespect to the A&M pitching coach job, but at what point is Nate Yeski going to get that call for a head coach job? He coached in Omaha with Oregon State a couple times. Didn't take Arizona, but he went with Arizona to Omaha, and now he's going to do it again. A&M's coming to Omaha.
Yeah,
no, they're not.
He's just got to get out of his own way a little bit. But yeah, he's a great pitching coach. So I don't think it's too far between him seeing maybe he gets a job coming up here soon.
And just kind of piggyback one more thing on A&M, they might be the only, even top 30 team where they announce their Friday, Saturday starter the day of, just because of Micah Dallas kind of struggling a little bit. It seems like Schloss is almost just picking people the day of on like a gut feeling. So I'm wondering if that's kind of the only Achilles heel down the stretch here is, they don't have that number 2 guy that they could rely on. But other than that, everything else seems to point that they are going to continue to be hot.
But does that keep those guys loose and ready to go? Like if it could be any arm at any time, maybe those guys are just sitting in there champing at the bit, waiting, hoping that they can get a chance to get out there and go get that win.
Yeah. I'm going to play devil's advocate here, but I mean, if I'm a batter and I don't even know who's pitching like that day, I feel like you almost have to go out and score double-digit runs to win. And that's the only thing that I would see. But yeah, I mean, the flip side of that is those bullpen guys are going to be a lot more hungrier because they know their job's on the line every single time they go out there.
Yeah. Lots of opportunities for lots of guys usually equals success down the road.
I wonder if that's a page out of the Pat Casey playbook that Yeski is kind of taken where, because I know at least in Omaha, Pat would never announce those lineups until like the last second. It would be the game starting in 10 minutes and we don't know who's playing.
Yeah.
And then Pat would roll it out.
He was big on that, the whole 30 minutes to go, give us a lineup. Oh, I just got to tweak it a little bit. And then 15 minutes, here we go. What are we doing? Who are we rolling out today? Pat played his cards close to the chest.
We have hot teams, and then we have teams that are flying a little bit under the radar. Fellas, how about some underdogs in their conference to win that conference tournament that are not in the top 3 of their regular season standings?
You know what's really strange is that when I was looking through this, the ACC has so many picks. I went with Virginia. They're the 5 seed right now in that conference. And you look at this, they're hitting .313 as a team. They got 3 guys with double-digit home runs. They got a superstar in Geloff. They got a team ERA of 3.73. They have struggled a little bit in some of these games on the road. They're 7-9 on the road, which is kind of scary. But, neutral site tournament, I'm all for it. I think it's a great thing here. I think Virginia's got a real shot at winning this thing as long as they go into it the right headspace. They got 9 starters they have 9 pitchers that have started games this year, which really helps you come tournament time.
Jake, who do you got?
This is going to sound really weird because they probably are the most talked about team in America, but I think Texas is going to be my kind of out of the top 3 pick because if they can get that 4 seed, and I know West Virginia is kind of keeping pace with them playing Kansas State. Texas gets to play Kansas. If they get that 4 seed, or excuse me, the 5 seed, they're going to get to avoid, some of these top teams, because there really is a big gap between Oklahoma State and Texas Tech and OU and TCU. I know OU is one of the hotter teams in the country right now, but you don't know when they kind of get that extended break and they're pitching and stuff like that, kind of how they're going to react to it. And Texas seems like always beats OU in baseball when it comes to it. So if I'm picking, an outside of the radar one, Texas is going to be my safest pick, because I do kind of feel like they are still that top 8 team talent wise, and they kind of are getting hot here at the right time.
Yeah, I picked a bunch of teams, and Texas was definitely one of them. It's going to be hard to imagine a world where Ivan Melendez doesn't own the beginning part of that postseason. It's weird to imagine where Ivan Melendez and Texas go on the road for the entire NCAA tournament. It just feels like it sets up for them to sneak into that 16. And if they win that Big 12 tournament, maybe they can pull that off. But yeah, that'd be pretty on brand for Texas, wouldn't it, Jake?
Very, very on brand. It almost seems like they're setting it up knowing that they're going to be able to host all along. But yeah, just to kind of harp on Ivan Melendez, if he hits one today, he'll have the Texas record over Kyle Russell. He tied it last night. And I mean, I didn't really watch Texas in that Sunday game against West Virginia, but the 3 games that I've seen this week at Texas, he's hit a home run in all 3, and they've been no doubters. The bats sounded different, so he's hot right now. I think his entire family was at the game last night because it kept showing his dad. Tons and tons of people wearing Melendez gear, so it'll be really exciting if he can go in and do it in front of the home fans and get that record today.
It blows my mind that national baseball writers had no idea who this kid was, didn't have him on the Golden Spikes list. We were talking about him literally in February, and nobody else was, and I didn't understand. And now he's done this, and the fact that Texas doesn't have a better record with this is kind of sad. I know they've had some arm issues and such, but Texas could line up to where they're playing TCU, Oklahoma, and Kansas or Kansas State in their side of the bracket on that Big 12. That sets up for them. I mean, if they can skip Texas Tech and Oklahoma State for the first part of that tournament, they're going to be ready and raring to go here to win that tournament.
And then Mark and I talked about this in the pregame show. How the Big 12 tournament is set up is it's 2 4-team pods that meet, and the 2 champions play winner take all. So if you're really truly avoiding, Oklahoma State, TCU until the championship game, and it's one game with bullpens shot on both sides, I really like Texas in that situation, just because they have a better average to last year than the College World Series team. It really is their pitching that's just let them down this year, because they've hit the ball a lot better than they did last year. And up and down their lineup, they go about 10 deep, believe it or not.
Yeah, and if you're telling me you're putting Texas into a slugfest in that warm weather, I feel pretty confident in that if I'm Texas.
It's still really hard to look at even regional projections and think, yeah, Texas is going to go away quietly in that one. They just, even when they're kind of just bad right now, they seem to be on the upswing. Texas is back, but you can't ever count them out. And it just feels like if Ivan Melendez can kind of pull a Cody Clemens, they'll be fine.
Yeah, the craziest thing to me about Texas, though, is their 6-hole hitter is top 5 in the country in average. That just shows you how deep they are hitting the ball with Skylar Messenger. When he's your 6-hole, it's just crazy to look at when you see their lineup.
Yeah, they just can't get outs and play defense. That's it. They really cannot get outs. It's crazy.
And before we move on, I would like to give a shout out to Ole Miss for when they win the SEC tournament as a not top 3 seed in that one. Really excited for that. We're going to be talking about Ole Miss hosting a regional. No, we're not.
If they get in the tournament, it'll be surprising at this point. They got to really – I think they have to win 2 in Hoover, but that's just my thought.
You're a hater.
Just a Southern Miss lover.
Well, with that, which conference tournaments are we most excited for?
Not the SEC. I am really looking forward to the ACC. You look at it, and they have, all these winning records, all that are going to be there. Those top 12 seeds all have winning records nationally, and it's a very good conference. But I'm going to go out here and just say Pac-12. It's the inaugural Pac-12 tournament. Of course, me being the West Coast guy, I am the token West Coast guy on our program. I believe that the Pac-12 tournament is going to be a blast. It's a really strange format to go straight double elimination for 5 days. I'm excited, though, to see what happens, especially now with the Beavers needing some wins down there in Scottsdale. It's supposed to be anywhere from 100 to 105 degrees down there, so it'll be a little different for these teams that have been playing in the Northwest where it's really cold.
Jake, which conference tournament are you most looking forward to?
Well, we just spent like the last better part of 5 minutes talking about the Big 12 tournament, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the Conference USA tournament is going to be the one that I'm most excited for. There's a lot of teams in there that are really jockeying for position, and Southern Miss on top of it, they need to continue to win to want to host. And then the flip side of that is UTSA, Old Dominion, all those fringe teams. If they go in and beat a Southern Miss in a conference tournament, it'll be really, really interesting to see kind of where those teams fall, because it seems like no one on the bubble kind of wants to step up and get off the bubble, as they all kind of seem to, lose some of these bad games down the stretch. Like UTSA lost to Marshall. They lost to UAB last night. Actually, that was 2 nights ago. They won last night to kind of keep pace. But it seems like a lot of these bubble teams really don't want to win these games. And the tournament's going to be a great time. And the Conference USA tournament is going to be the one I'm most excited for. Go ahead.
I was going to
say that's going to be the double elimination type thing where they meet in the middle with the winner take all.
Coming into this weekend, there was 4 teams tied for third, and generally with their RPI, they're looking at a 3-bid conference. So 4 teams were really vying for that last spot to get into the tournament, and it's really going to be that's a good one. I like that, with 4 teams that were tied for third coming into this weekend.
Yeah, if you remember last year's Conference USA tournament, it was who's going to be getting a regional, Southern Miss, Louisiana Tech, and it came down. I think it went to extras. It was just a crazy game in that conference championship game, and then I think one team, I think it was Louisiana Tech, they won the game. They exploded for a couple runs and extras, and it was a fantastic game, and I think it ended on a crazy web gem catch. It was great. This year, Southern Miss is hosting it, so maybe they'll get revenge on anybody else vying for that last kind of push to try and get Southern Miss into that hosting conversation. But I'm, of course, always looking forward to the SEC tournament. It's just the standard in college baseball. I've said that, and it's because I have my almost, I've been there, done that. I would rather go to Hoover than the College World Series, because it plays a role that I go to the College World. I've been there for probably 16 years, been going to games consistently, but there's just something special about when Hoover starts, and it starts with those 9 a.m. games. You get your breakfast with the SEC, and then it just rolls out all day. And then at some point, and nobody really knows when, even though it is advertised, at some point it turns to single elimination. It's kind of like when you're on one of those rides on like a not a lazy river, but one of the fast ones, and it just all of a sudden it turns and you're eliminated. You're just tossed. And it's so great. You get these matchups, especially if we get Tennessee against Arkansas. That is going to draw in everybody across the country. People want to see that one desperately. But, of course, I am very excited for the Pac-12 tournament, because that you're going to see so much strategy that it's kind of like season 1 of Survivor, where these people don't know about hidden immunity idols yet. We're going to see what the Pac-12 tournament is, how it goes. It's going to be in that heat. It's going to be very, very weird to see these teams playing each other. I think Arizona was playing like Santa Clara the last week of the year last year. No more of that. It's time to play the big boys.
Yeah, and I think that it might actually be a thing that helps out some of these, second-tier teams like Arizona and Oregon that are really right there on the cusp of, are they a 2 or are they a 3? Where are they going? If they can come out and play well. Oregon's playing good ball after losing to Oregon State. They've been on fire. Arizona likes to play in that heat. It'll be really interesting here. The other teams that are limited now, Washington State, Utah, and USC. So we know the 8 teams that'll be down there. So now it's just positioning and seeing who can win those games in those double elimination format.
Mark, are you ready for Arizona State to win the Conference of Champions tournament?
I was scared last week, honestly. Arizona State was on fire, and they were banging the ball around the yard, 19 runs, and I was like, "Oh, this team's getting they're down. They're right now they play Stanford, so that's a tough first game out the gate. But you never know; they could go down there and surprise Stanford with how well they've been hitting the ball in that heat. I mean, the ball really does travel down there in Scottsdale, so it's going to be interesting to see if it's bats or arms here this weekend, because there's a lot of arms in the pack.
If the Phoenix metro area too is quickly kind of turning into college baseball's second home outside of Omaha, with the WAC tournament also being at at another spring training stadium there. And that's really another one that's caught my eye because there really are two separate divisions. The far west hasn't interacted with the Texas division at all. So we're going to get to see some of these Texas teams playing, Grand Canyon because they haven't seen them at all.
Yep. Yeah, Sam Houston maybe versus Grand Canyon. That would be a great series. I think a lot of people would tune in and watch that just to see those are guys that are battling for a high 2 seed somewhere.
Hopefully, we can see Ethan Long take over the Pac-12 tournament. People need to know his name down at Arizona State, but maybe not this year. Maybe next year when he's a junior. Jake, we once again talked about our favorite conference tournaments. We actually did touch on the mid-major, but let's hear this week's mid-major update on all the teams that we've never heard of.
So, coming right out of the teams we've never heard of from the the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference, we have Championship Saturday today. We got Coppin State, we got Delaware State. Winner take all is going to be the second game. Coppin State's going to come through and beat them twice. So they are actually Delaware State was the top seed. They kind of rolled through. So it'll be really interesting to see. Tennessee fans might want to tune into this one because this will probably be who's slotted into that Tennessee, kind of regional, because none of these teams are over 500. They really are afterthoughts. There's only 4 teams in this conference. They had to apply for an exemption to even get a championship berth because they had so many people bail on them. So they're kind of getting their moment in the sun of being the first team to officially clinch in. Army and Bucknell in the Patriot League, they're playing a best of 3. How their kind of conference tournament worked was it was 4 teams, 2 weekends, 3-game series, and then you advance into a 3-game series. Very, very weird setup. Army is the favorite. They've been to the last 4 tournaments, so kind of look for them to, flex on Bucknell a little bit. And lastly, we have the Ivy tournament today. 2 hot teams, Columbia and Penn, 2 teams that, a lot of people are familiar with. Penn is the top seed because they beat Columbia and hold the tiebreaker, but both teams finished with the same record. As we know, Penn beat A&M, so a lot of Texas fans are, big Penn fans, but really don't count out Columbia here because Columbia has been hot. They're one of the hottest teams in the country, had one of the longest winning streaks in the country, but that's your Ivy report there. And I think Columbia and Penn can both kind of make noise in the regional, and they're going to be a very, very tough 4 to knock out.
Was I reading correctly that Penn also has the highest team GPA in the country? I believe I was reading that they have the highest team GPA in the country, which is kind of cool if they can win the Ivy, get in and make some noise in the tournament, and be the smartest team in the country possibly. So
I think if you're leading the Ivy, you're already the smartest champion.
That's fair. And I've been keeping my eye on Army Bucknell because Army right now, every time I turn up and look at these 64 brackets, they keep getting sent to Corvallis. So I'd be excited for that one to see Army and Corvallis.
I would be too. They have some great baseball history. They've been really, really good at home. They're one of the better home teams in the nation. Not so great on the road, but they do play this series with Bucknell at the Doubleday Diamond. So kind of look for them to flex on it. And yeah, Beaver fans, if you're watching, this might be one of those ones that you tune into because Army is probably going to be one of the lower 16 teams.
Well, Jake, we are just flying through today's show. Just 33 minutes, and we're already at the Q&A portion of the show. Setting records. Do we have any questions?
We have one from our great producer, Alex Day.
Where's that good looking? He's down with family vacation, man. Hopefully it's all going good down there, Alex. Hopefully you guys are having a blast. We're taking care of business here. Jake's got us all taken care of. Actually, a super fast show so far. There's just not a lot of weird stuff to discuss this week except for Oregon State's losses. So everything else seems to be going pretty according to plan. Mississippi State's out. Ole Miss is on their way out. So
I think the reason we're going so fast is because we haven't talked about LSU.
Go Tigers. Here it is. Vandy was in the top 16, having the chance to host. Their RPI was high. They're at home, and they can't hold off the Tigers, who just lost a home series last weekend. The SEC second-tier teams are really driving me nuts because I don't understand. And I call second tier, it's everybody below Tennessee is second tier this year. but they're like, who really wants to host? Who's going to take over that region and be the next regional host? I think it's going to come down to Hoover now for these teams to see who's actually going to be the hosting teams.
Yeah, I tweeted that LSU Vandy was the SEC's version of Who Wants It Less, because every time I watch one of these teams, oh yeah, they're one of the best teams in the country, and then the very next week they suck. So somebody's going to have to decide, all right, we're going to host the regional. It's kind of like rock, paper, scissors is what it might come down to.
Yeah, on Wednesday I was screaming with Jake going, Vandy's the team. They're who we thought they were. Corbin's got them playing good. And now they're just like, nah, jumps on you guys for believing in us.
That's what you get. That's the A&M treatment.
Yeah, he's just waiting now. They're like, oh, we'll lose some games. We send the Whistler somewhere nobody wants him to be.
So here's you a question. You talked about second-tier SEC teams with that Arkansas-Alabama series. If Alabama beats Arkansas, do you think that vaults Alabama back into the tournament conversation, or do you still think they have a lot of work to do at Hoover? Because they are kind of right on that fringe. I think they were next 4 out on Baseball America's projection. So they're, right on the cusp of it. Do you think that, series win against Arkansas, against the struggling Arkansas if they lose, by the way, do you think that gets them in?
No, they still have to win at least one game in Hoover, probably 2 to really solidify their chances of being, a 3 or 4 seed somewhere. Generally the 4 seeds are taken up by lower conference tournaments. So they're really battling for a 3 seed somewhere, and they're not a 3 team right now. They're going to have to win, yes, it will help their resume, but they got to win 2 games, I believe, in Hoover to get in.
And then if Arkansas loses this series, are we going to talk about, Arkansas not being a host anymore? Or do you think they've still kind of done enough to clinch being a host despite kind of this bad series loss?
I think Arkansas hosts. I think that you're going to see somewhere between 5 and 6 SEC teams that are top 16 hosts. The one that's really been scaring me this weekend is not necessarily Arkansas, but Auburn. They have struggled with Kentucky, and we talked about it being a big ballpark and the tough games down there. They looked like they were the team that was the most fire and ready to go into this thing and host, and they have struggled down there in Kentucky. So I'm more worried if I'm an Auburn fan than I am if I'm an Arkansas fan.
If they weren't on my list already, I'm really starting to dislike Auburn just because their fans are just so they think that Auburn is locked into a hosting. No. Yeah. And they think they get really upset when they're ranked below A&M.
Yeah.
No.
And you talk to Auburn fans, online, and they all believe that they're like a top 5 team. They all think that this is a national seed team. I'm like, pump the brakes, guys. You guys still got some series to win. You got a lot to prove here. You guys were a sub 500 team last year, and you're talking about how you're a national seed this year. Slow down. Show us how you can do it here in Hoover. I think that they are a team, though, that if they win in Hoover, they'll probably be a 16. They'll be in the top 16. I believe that they have the ability, but this loss to Kentucky yesterday really made me – and I watched that. Auburn was inept at the plate. There was good pitching by Kentucky, big ballpark, but they were inept at scoring runs.
Where do y'all put Kentucky, you think? Because Kentucky – they have probably one of the worst losses, but they also have probably 3 of the best series wins of any team. They beat Tennessee. If they beat Auburn, Auburn's another class of the SEC. And then they beat Big 12 champion TCU earlier in the season. They have some really, really bad series losses that they'll have to overcome. But no, do you think there's any way they kind of sneak in there? Or you think, start booking your Cape plans if you're a Kentucky baseball player?
Oh, it's college baseball, so never say never, but never. Kentucky's a bad team. You can never rule out what they'll do in those breakfast and with the SEC games, but it would have to take quite a bit for them to try and sneak in there. But at the beginning of the year when they beat TCU, they were a top 25 team, and then they just absolutely fell apart too early in the SEC to try and sneak back in. But you never know what could happen in Hoover. Do you really expect Tennessee to win in Hoover? Somebody has to. And do we trust anybody else? No. Let's trust Kentucky.
They're going to go in and steal it.
I remember week 2, we had this discussion on here, and people were like, oh, Kentucky, you should rank them. You should rank them. I'm not going to rank them. They're not good. They had a good weekend. Look at all the bad weekends they've had, though. They don't deserve to be a team in there right now. If they beat Auburn today and then they go win 2 games, I think that's a lot of teams' formula to show that they're good. You have to win 2 games in Hoover. So it's really going to come down to who shows up down there and gets through into the single elimination part of the bracket.
Yeah, they have series losses at Missouri and then at South Carolina. So two of you know. I know AJ's not here, so I can't really stick up for his Gamecocks, so I won't talk too much about them. But those are far crying away from that Tennessee win, and they almost look like two different teams when they're at home versus on the road. So maybe go into Hoover, win 2 games, show us you can win on the road, but they really are playing themselves kind of back in it. I know that after about a month ago they looked dead to rights. But they're one of the teams stepping up, though. I feel like they're one of the few bubble teams that are kind of stepping into it. Whereas Pitt's, losing midweeks to Penn State in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and you watch, and I don't know how much Kentucky baseball. I've watched actually now 5 games of theirs live. They hit the ball. Like, they get after it. Their question mark is pitching for Kentucky. They've been getting outs lately, but they were not early in the season. And I believe that they can hit the ball with anybody in that SEC, but I still don't believe in them as being a conference tournament team. Speaking of losses to Missouri, what's going on with your Georgia Bulldogs down there, Noah?
Well, we had a discussion this week in the clubhouse, and we said, do we really want to be in this hosting conversation and then kind of maybe get screwed by matching up with Tennessee? We don't. So we decided to jump on down to that 2 seed line, and we're happy there. We want to be sent to Gonzaga, somewhere with a susceptible one. And hey, let's do it. Let's party. And we're going to injure 90% of the roster in the process. So
that it's true. The injuries have really been kind of scary here for Georgia down the stretch. I do see like Georgia and Vandy going to, Gonzaga and Southern Miss and getting to go down to these ballparks where, it's a little lesser known teams. It's going to be kind of exciting come tournament time here, but they both have played their way out of 16 seeds. And if you ask me,
do you guys think the committee thinks about how teams perform on the road specifically, and just think like with a maybe even like a Texas Tech, and just think, does this team really deserves a bump because of how good they are at home, because we know how bad they are on the road? And then when you look at those bubble teams who are bad on the road, well, what does it matter? We're just going to send them on the road anyway. We should keep them out because we know they're going to lose. Do you think that plays a factor?
I believe that road record plays a factor because, only 16 teams going to be hosts. So you're talking about the other teams there. The other 48 have to go on the road somewhere and do something hard. When you're talking about great teams, if you're at a 500 road record, that's enough. That's enough. Teams that like Texas Tech that just got to that 500 road record, they are there. They're right where they need to be, but they are so much better at home. So I think the committee tries to give them a chance at home because they are, 20-3 at home, and they need those wins. They have not shown it this week, though, when they need to beat Oklahoma, and they can't do it. So I don't know. I think that when you look at some of those, like, right on the cusp teams, if they have a really bad road record, I don't send them anywhere because it's not going to be exciting.
I could see that. I think if I was on the committee and I was talking about Texas Tech, I would automatically rule them out from being a top 8 seed, but let them host a regional. Give them their regional and say, win at home and then go on the road for super regional and then prove it that you can make it to Omaha.
Yeah, I think if they win a couple games in the Big 12 tournament, that they should be somewhere in the 12 to 14 range. That'd be a good spot for them to be hosting.
If I was a commissioner, I would make Tech go play Tennessee. They'd be the 2 seed. Kick them out. Say, oh, you're so bad on the road? Go be good on the road here.
Well, the more that this keeps going, too, I'm thinking that, A&M is trying to get one of those top 8 national seeds. But if they stumble a little bit and they drop to like 9 or 10, there's going to be some good matchups here coming through.
And they're a very good road team. They're kind of almost like anti-Tech, where it seems like they play better on the road and focus up more. I think last night was their 5th road loss of the year. So they are a really, really good road team. So I'm really not that worried about them there.
Yeah.
But
that's
Oklahoma State, Tech,
9 or 10 is not bad.
I think who else is really good at home? Another one who we give a lot of crap for that they're a lot better. Kentucky, but
that's just a tough ballpark, man. That's a huge, weird ballpark there in Kentucky. So there's definitely some teams that favor home games. Miami's one of them. They'd rather be at home than on the road anywhere else. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Why is Florida getting all the love for a 2 seed? We talked about this, I know, Jake, on Wednesday. Why on earth are they getting all this love to be a 2 seed? Like, they're
Welcome.
fine. Put them in as a 3 seed somewhere. They don't have the frontline guy with Barco out now. They don't have a dude that's going to go in there and just beat people up. They don't have a guy in the lineup that you're afraid of necessarily. Like, the whole lineup's okay, but there's not one guy you point at and go, he's the guy that you don't want to pitch to. Why is Florida getting all this love?
Welcome to the Florida hate party. These guys, they just do the bare minimum, and it's like, look at little Florida go. Let's boost them up.
They win at home. Go
Yeah.
crazy.
It's ridiculous. I absolutely hate. And Miami gets the same treatment. They do the bare minimum, and then they go out there and get this huge bump. It's like the anti-Pac-12. Like, nobody really watches Miami and Florida State and Florida because they're so gross. It always looks like it's so hot where they play. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like they're sweat beads on the camera. So nobody watches them. They just assume that they're really good. Oh, it's Florida. They're good. And here we are. Florida's been like a bubble team for a long time. And now they're talking about, oh, maybe if they go on a run in Hoover, they can get back into the 16 conversation. What? No.
No, they absolutely should not be a host. There's no chance. They would have to win the SEC tournament for me to even consider them. And even then, I don't think that they're good enough. They shouldn't be hosting. So, no, Florida should not be. I don't know where they're getting all this love. For me, I kind of want to see them go 0-2 and get bumped out right away and then see what the committee does and say, oh, are they a 3 seed now or are they even in the tournament? So,
yeah, it's going to be really interesting with some of these mid-majors, too, that are very, very hot, like Campbell, Santa Barbara, if they're going to put them as a 3 seed and Florida as a 2. So it'll be really interesting kind of how they value big names down the stretch here. Because, yeah, there's a big chunk of college baseball that seems like just doesn't want to host. Like, it seems like the entire ACC outside of Virginia Tech just kind of goes out there and gets beat by each other. You know, a lot of these mid-major teams seem like slip. So it'll be really interesting how they value big names when it seems like this is one of those years in college baseball where outside of Tennessee, I mean, realistically, you could put Maryland at 2, and I really don't think they would be that out of place with the way some of the stuff's shaping out. Outside of Tennessee, there really is, a huge logjam in college baseball this year.
yeah, I mean, and here's the thing. So we're talking about these mid-majors that have done everything we asked them. So when you look at Gonzaga, they've gone on the road. They've played tough teams. They've played Oregon State. They've played swept at Oklahoma State. They've won their conference. They've done everything we asked them. Southern Miss have played top-tier teams down there in Mississippi. They've played all the best that they can. They've gone out and won games on the road. They've won games at home. They won their conference title for the regular season. What else? I mean, Grand Canyon, they went out and they've beat teams that have been very good. Arizona, Stanford, they've played and beat these teams, Texas Tech. What else are you asking from these mid-majors if you're going to just bump them down because at the end of the season, they're not equal to an SEC team?
Yeah, Liberty's another one, too. They went and beat Florida in a series to open the weekend. I know they kind of had a little struggles in the A-Sun, but the A-Sun is kind of a logjam at the top. And if they come out, I think that almost proves that they're resilient and that they should be a lot higher than Florida because they have the head-to-head against Florida.
Yeah. I mean, I think these mid-majors are used to being on the road now, so they're excited to go into places.
They get to film.
Yeah, I still believe, I still think that there should be, 2 mid-majors should be at least, not including Maryland, 2 mid-majors should be hosting regional sites.
I would really like to see Liberty get placed in a favorable regional because we've forgotten how good they are. They might actually be bad, but we forgot how good they can be. And I think that I had Liberty in Omaha for a couple weeks, so I would love to see them paired up with. We keep saying Gonzaga like they're bad, but I would like to see them thrown in that Gonzaga mix where there's going to be that 2 from the SEC and maybe throw them in as the 3. Let's get nuts with Liberty. I love Liberty. It just feels like that they just haven't shown me that juice that they had at the beginning of the year. Maybe they have to play a big name team to get that back.
Yeah, and we all had them ranked in our polls very high early in the season. They were playing well. Then they released those baby blue uniforms, and they kind of went all downhill after that. I think that they're going to get stuck in the Virginia regional. I think that that's where they're going to end up going. I think they might be a 2 or a 3 seed in that Virginia regional if Virginia can host that season.
Well, Liberty's actually, due to tiebreakers right now, 6th in the A-Sun. They're only a game back of 1st, but they are technically 6th. So they would fit the bill for that team outside the top 3 to go on a run.
Yeah.
Who's winning the ASUN?
Right now, it is tied with Kennesaw State, the Owls, and the Eastern Kentucky Colonels, where they have Colonel Sanders as their mascot. and, and then they're tied with Jacksonville State and Central Arkansas.
Central Arkansas, they are sneaky. I like Central Arkansas. They wear purple very well. Love their ballpark. They have this. It's like the outline of the home plate circle is purple. It's great.
I know they looked really good when I came and saw them against Texas too. They
Yeah.
looked like they held their own a little bit. I know Texas kind of flexed on them, but I mean, they hit the ball really well. So it was a really bad matchup for Central Arkansas. But yeah, the ASUN is played into a really tough conference. Kind of with Liberty is there's not really that blow away team, so you almost kind of give them a little bit of credit for being 18-11 in conference.
Where's the ASUN conference tournament at? Do we know?
I know the format. I don't know the location, but the format for the ASUN is going to be 8 teams, 2 pods of 4, and then when you get into that final 4, it's going to be single elimination.
Okay.
I want to say I'm probably going to get confused with the Big South, but I want to say it's in Butte Creek, North Carolina.
I can't tell where it is. It's too hard to figure out. Fort Myers, Florida.
I was way wrong. Then that was the Big South.
Fort Myers, Florida. So they're sending down to Florida. Great, cool, outstanding. So it'll be 100%.
It'll be right out.
Yeah, I think that's where the Fort Myers. I can't think of their name. They used to be the Miracle, the minor league team. But I
think
assume
the Red Sox home is in Fort Myers. I doubt they're going to play it at JetBlue, but I think that's where Fort Myers. And then there's like a perfect game complex down there too. I doubt they'll put it at a perfect game complex.
Well, I'm sure they'll pick a good spot. That'll be a kind of a must watch for us college baseball addicts.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're finishing up the regular season here. We got one more game for some teams. Some teams play on Sunday still. But coming into the conference tournaments, I'm excited to see what these teams do. I mean, this is make or break for a lot of teams now to see if they're going to get in. Like you said, there's 6 teams within one game in the ASUN. 6 teams are not coming out of that conference. So it's going to be interesting to see what these teams do. Just like 6 teams are not coming out of Conference USA, and there's 4 teams tied for 3rd. So I'm excited to see some of these smaller conference tournaments, and that's when it really gets exciting. And they get the same coverage as Pac-12, so cool.
Yeah, there's a really big logjam. There's about 3 or 4 conferences where teams are up by 1 game, and I'll have to go back to and update it today. But I know like and these are all 1-bid leagues too. So like for example, the Ohio Valley Conference is going to have one. They had 3 teams a game back, so kind of look for that. If there is a blowout in the SEC games, because that is very, very possible with A&M's pitching that they have. Maybe switch over to some of those mid majors and kind of get a preview in your bracket.
Yeah, and one thing we didn't talk about too is the Women's College World Series started up this week. So if you're in between baseball games, there's plenty of coverage. Go watch some of your favorite teams play in the Women's College World Series. I know that it's been a really exciting first day already, so they got day 2 started today.
A bunch of our own are taking over some women's softball coverage at WCWS 247. Go check them out. Looks like it's going to be a great product. Got a great team working on it. Excited to see how that goes.
Yeah, big shout out to the other writers on our same side doing the same thing. So go get it.
Y'all ready for picks?
Yep. No bets from Alex this week. Sorry, he's still crying about LSU.
This is our last week too, right? And I'm right back on the 5-5 train. So weird. Great. Cool.
We were all on that train last week.
What happened? Oh, AJ's not on the show today.
Yeah.
I know he's going to come back. Yeah.
He's trying to make his comeback for the last week here. Last week of the regular season. So for those of you who don't know, this is Miami versus Notre Dame, Catholics versus convicts. That's outstanding. No, we know that you hate Miami, so obviously you went Notre Dame. What? I mean, I went Miami. I picked Miami in every single series. I can't get over this. These are great. This is just Catholics versus convicts. I love it. Great job, Alex.
Yeah, this was an easy pick for me. Miami is a fraudulent team. They are garbage. They lost last night. Series is tied. Really excited to watch Game 3 today. If I can get over that god awful stadium and it looks like it's 200 degrees every time they're playing. But yeah, Notre Dame is a pretty good team. I don't know why everybody's afraid to admit that. Miami's a bad team. I don't know why everybody's afraid to admit that. Let's go ahead and take care of business, Irish. This was an easy pick. I can't believe nobody else is on my team. Alex was upset when I picked Notre Dame. Like, was I supposed to pick the mid-major here? Go Irish.
Oh, man. You know my feelings. I hate Notre Dame. I don't see it. I don't believe in them. I don't think they're a good team. And I have too much love for Miami that I shouldn't have. So maybe it's just because I live in the cold Northwest and I'm like, give me some of that 205-degree oven temperatures. But
I was kind of the same way. I just couldn't trust Notre Dame, and I figured it out, Noah. They use like the same cameras from like Scarface from 1980 to give it like this tint over the
Yeah.
field. Is it looks so? That's what it was. I watched Scarface the other day. I was like, "That's My Light Field. There it is."
it looks like it's always sunset.
Yeah. Like I feel like just some like eerie music needs to play over. This was really easy for me. They do have the rubber match today, so that kind of does worry me a little bit. But you know, when you win at home, you're supposed to win at home. That was kind of the difference for me here. Was Miami at home, two very even teams. Miami has a lot to play for. Notre Dame has a lot to play for. I unfortunately I think both these teams host. I think that's good, especially with the 2-3 and the rubber match today. Both these teams are going to host, so we're going to get a lot more of a A-Rod Park at Matt Light Field with Jazz Chisholm Stadium. I don't know. They got too many names for their stadium. Pick one.
What are you guys doing? What is this?
Listen, I didn't believe in A&M. I as much as I hate Ole Miss and I'm a big Southern Miss guy this year and I picked them, I thought that Ole Miss actually was coming in hot and they needed this way more than A&M. I thought A&M was pretty stable and ready to go, but this is really interesting. I didn't think four of us would take Ole Miss this weekend.
What on earth?
I wasn't going to jinx it. That was my logic. Is I want A&M to win it, and I wasn't going to be the jinx.
We expected that one, but oh my god, this is just insane. And of
Alex
course,
wants them to win because it makes LSU look better. So Alex wants Ole Miss to win.
of course, AJ was on A&M because they'll win the series and he'll get the point. But my god,
I
this
know
is
that
just
makes me feel really good. He's not even here, so he's gonna get the point.
All right, this is a fair split, and they've split the series so far. I just believe in Virginia a little bit more. You know, I know it's tough to go. I think they're at Louisville. But if this comes down to a hitting Game 3, I like the offense of Virginia just a little bit more.
Yeah, when Virginia was at their best in this series, they just kept scoring and scoring. They had 3 home runs in I think it was like the 5th or 6th inning. It was just insane. Jake Geloff, however you say it, he is so good. I can't believe that Virginia is like on that fringe of hosting. They need to host regional. They're a very good team. They did lose Game 1, of course, but if they play like they did yesterday, this should be pretty easy for them, especially the way Louisville likes to play on Sundays. Let them take that 10-0 lead. They'll lose 11-10 every time.
Yeah, I just couldn't go against Geloff and the Graffiti Boys in this series. It was just going to be too easy of a series for me. I haven't really felt like the Cardinals here have looked like the Cardinals now because I'm not even going to try and attempt.
I love that
to pronounce.
You've just given up saying Louisville.
I've tried the Cardinals. Give me Geloff and the Graffiti Boys. I think they go and get it today in the split game.
Speaking of hosting, man, I would like to see both these programs host. Really,
yes.
I think that it's good for college baseball if both these guys get a host at their ball clubs. It's really cool ballparks for both of them.
Sucks to be 0-1.
I mean, I took LSU thinking they needed it more, and then I believed that I needed the point more also, so I went LSU with Alex. I have picked so poorly on LSU this year, so I'm glad that I got one out of the way here and got the victory.
I thought Vanderbilt is finally getting into that groove that we know that Vanderbilt's in, and they're going to officially lock in that regional host, and they're going to be able to do it so easily at home against LSU, who's kind of inconsistent. Turns out that inconsistency, it was time for them to be good again. So congratulations, LSU.
Yeah, it did kind of feel like the perfect score or perfect storm where Vandy was on the rise. LSU just got swept from Ole Miss. It's like, okay, LSU is going to lose 2 of 3 at the road. They just lost, 3 straight at home. And then Vandy comes in flat. Good news, though, I didn't hear the Whistler very much last night. So maybe a little bit silver lining that LSU plays good. Maybe they're the Whistler's kryptonite.
Feels good to be 0-2.
As almost impossible as it was for me to pick that team down south, I was looking at this, and they're very good at home. They've been banging the ball around the yard. Yes, Oregon State swept them, but they were close games every time, and I think that Oregon club is peaking at the right time offensively, and now they're starting to get a little bit of pitching performance. Last night, Ayton went in there and beat Arizona, so I think that this was an easy one for me after looking at all the numbers.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat as you. I felt like ever since Oregon State swept Oregon, they really have flipped the switch and kind of turned the corner. And they've really been playing a lot more loose. Like, they don't really have a lot to lose. And I think that's a really, really good recipe for baseball down the stretch, is when you're very loose. They look to kind of have simplified things and just kind of gotten back to basics. And this one was a very easy one for me too, because I think Arizona and UCLA are the 2 biggest frauds in the country. So anytime I can pick against them, they're always gonna, show out for me.
I love me some Coach Canham, but Coach Waz at Oregon might be the best coach in the Pac-12. He's pretty phenomenal down there.
Wow. There are a couple frauds in the country, you're right. UCLA, TCU, Florida, and Miami. Those are the 4 frauds. Arizona, maybe a little bit, but I thought that they could get over that hump that they kind of went on for a while with that series win over Oregon State. Turns out they are not capable of that. So thank you, Wildcats.
And we'll throw in Nebraska. Nebraska's another fraud too.
Oh, they're fraud in every other sport.
They play baseball?
Not anymore. Their season's done after this weekend. They got the Mississippi State treatment.
This one was for the WCC title. San Diego was 2 games back. They needed to come in and sweep Gonzaga. I believe the Zag Dogs won last night to clinch the WCC regular season now. And then they're going to go into the tournament here. I have big faith in Gonzaga. If you look at their staff, they have a great pitching staff. They have returning freshman All-American on that pitching staff here. He's a sophomore, just killing it this year. And they really, top to bottom, 1 through 9, that's a dangerous lineup. I think that they can play well in that ballpark. Yes, it only holds 1,500 people. I think they're going to boost it up to 2,000, but I'm rooting for the Zag Dogs to get a host.
Yeah, Gonzaga is kind of turning into like Gonzaga basketball, where you see him playing a conference opponent. It's like, yeah, they'll win. Really that simple. Chris Bryant isn't walking through that door, like I said when these games were sent. Zag Dogs, easy.
This one actually was pretty hard for me. San Diego is on the bubble in a lot of these, projections. So I felt like this was one of those series where I could see them kind of winning. But, with the Melendez home run chase, toughest opponent coming in, it didn't feel like a very good weekend to be a San Diego fan. All 15 of those alumni are probably really mad that the home run record's getting broken. And, the Zags took care of business last night, so they might come out a little hungover in the next 2 games just because they won the West Coast Conference. I know Tennessee kind of had a little bit of a hangover, but they're playing for things bigger than the West Coast Conference. So I really do anticipate them to kind of come out and flex and prove to the committee why they are a top 16 team.
There's not enough Busch Light in the world to give people in Spokane a hangover, so. Boy, were we wrong. What happened? We all voted against Ramsey, and UNC looked like the UNC of 5 weeks ago that was possibly, a top 16 team. Florida State has struggled mightily putting up runs. I don't even know what to think of this Florida State team right now.
Well, I got a word for you, Mark. Frauds, just like all teams from the state of Florida. Can't believe I fell into their trap yet again. I'm officially done with Florida State. Other than Booker Messick, they are all fraudulent. And it turns out maybe he's even a fraud. I said it. But I watched North Carolina last weekend. I should have known. They can hit the ball around the yard. It's very impressive to me when you can hit a ball right on the line with a couple different guys in the lineup. I don't know if that was just kind of pure luck, but they did it a couple times in a row and was just blown away at this situational hitting. North Carolina might be back. Florida State, as usual, is back to being a fraud.
This one felt like almost one of those vintage SEC series where, Florida State goes out and they beat the number one top dog, and then next week they play a team that they're supposed to, kind of beat handily. And this kind of does show the depth of the ACC, I think, more than Florida State being frauds. North Carolina is a really, really good team. They are at home. We really shouldn't give teams that much, flack for losing on the road, Noah. They are a very good team. But the ACC this year does feel like the SEC of maybe 2 or 3 years ago with how deep the conference is. Because outside of Boston College and Duke, everybody can beat everybody.
I feel like I should have done more research and realizing that it was Fox's retirement weekend in UNC. That's our bad, fellas. We should have been ahead on that because we knew that they were going to win that weekend after that happened. So.
Yeah, I have no idea how this series has been going.
I believe Wake already won it. I believe Wake is 2-0.
Outstanding. I'm like 0-4. So the reason I picked NC State was because I looked at last year and I thought, when did they get hot? It was right around now. And at the beginning of the year, we all thought NC State is kind of a lock to be back in Omaha because of that chip on their shoulder. So I thought maybe it will come back right now. This is when NC State catches fire, wins the ACC tournament, gets like a 2 seed and gets a favorable regional, and then they run to a super regional, and then they beat somebody and they go to Omaha. Maybe I was a little early. Maybe that's next week. Oh, well.
I was way against Wake Forest. I thought that they had died off. I thought that this was NC State's weekend to win. I thought that they'd get right. I thought Tommy Tanks comes back out and hits home runs, which he did. It's not enough. That pitching staff can't get outs at North Carolina State.
Yeah, I was kind of on the same thing too. I really looked up and down NC State's schedule, and I'm like, okay, teams that are worse than them, they beat, and then teams that are better than them, they lose to. They haven't really dropped to any game that they're not supposed to. So I was like, okay, I have NC State above them. Throw it away tanks, as Papa McKeever likes to call him because he makes a lot of errors. I thought he was going to carry them. Did break the freshman home run record. But yeah, this one's kind of been all Wake Forest, and I think it's the AJ curse. When he's not on the show, he picks right. And then we got 2 more. Do you want to skip this one, Mark?
Cool. We're just trying to make Noah go 0 for this weekend. So
I'm 0-5 already.
Mark, how are we feeling today, buddy? I think any Oregon State fan that knows me is I'm a very positive influence, and I feel positive for the team. It has been a little frustrating this weekend to watch this team go in and struggle with runners on scoring position. Just not getting that big hit right now. They look a little tired. They look like they're exhausted. I don't know if it's because all the young guys and this is their first long season. It's just tough down the stretch here. So they have to come out and do something in the Pac-12 tournament. I want to see them come back to life a little bit before regionals. They're still going to host a regional. I just don't know if it's going to be the 3 seed or all the way down to 16. Who knows? But I believe that they still host a regional. They've done enough in their regular season to work, but it's hard. It's really tough right now. So I'm rooting for the Beavs. I'm still positive on them, still hyping them up, still be watching the game today, even though I'm in a pool tournament. So go Beavs.
Yeah, I don't know why I did this, but
have you won one yet here? Are you 0 for so far?
I'm 0-5 on all the games that are already decided. So at best, I'm on the 500 train again. Yeah, not great. I actually remembered that I did pick UCLA at first, and then I thought, no way Oregon State loses 2 series in a row. I picked UCLA to win the conference earlier a couple weeks ago, before they started being bums again because they're frauds. And yeah, I don't know. I should have just picked them. Could you imagine how nice that would look, UCLA up there instead of the god-awful alternate Beaver logo that it should be Benny the Beaver up there, not this one. But
I don't know how much you guys know, but they've switched to Benny the Beaver on most of their game day hats now. So they've gone back to Benny, which is nice. Now we just need to find Bernice Beaver. She's missing somewhere still.
It was the curse of Cabo Mark, I think, when you changed the profile picture.
I
The Beavers
know.
like,
It absolutely was my fault. Beaver fans went nuts. I had like literally 30 people be like, "Oh, I didn't even know you changed your picture. I didn't know this was you. It was hard to follow." I'm like, "It's the same name. Come on, guys."
It was weird. I know somebody else said it, but when I saw like somebody tweet like, "Yeah, I write for CWS 247," who's this guy?
Like, wait a minute. Oh my God, who is this man? I switched it back. It went back to Cabo Vibes Mark. It's my fault.
Oh,
Hopefully, we
thank God.
turn the train around today and go out there and get that win.
So no
Yeah.
no bets from Alex this week, but it poured the house on Oregon State. The profile picture's back.
I know, I'm utterly speechless. I did not see this one come in. I just kind of discredits my UCLA theory, so I'll leave it at that. Now another one. So
Holy cow. All these teams that were coming in this weekend needing wins, and none of them performed. It's just a really strange weekend in college baseball. Texas Tech could have locked up the 1 seed. You know, now Oklahoma's the only team that can challenge TCU for it, and TCU didn't even have a play any Big 12 games this weekend. So, Red Raiders, I don't know what you did. I had you penciled in back in the top 16. Now I don't know what to think of you.
So what are we at here that I've lost already? Vanderbilt, Arizona, Florida State, NC State, Oregon State, and Texas Tech.
So you're already 0 for 6.
Yep, and I've already lost Ole Miss too because they're gonna lose today. So
no, they're not. You're gonna get that's gonna be your one. You're gonna go 1-9 with an Ole Miss win.
What a week.
Yeah. This was another one of those where I was thinking about like strongly thinking, oh yeah, I'll pick Oklahoma, but then I thought Tech at home and they can continue being good. No, and we had our Oklahoma guy Braden hyping up Oklahoma a little bit. Let's stomp
We were
on
all
that.
clowning him, I might add, too. We were not on it. He was on it about 2-3 weeks ago. He was saying Oklahoma's fighting for it, too. And we were like, dude, they're not even in.
Yeah.
So we were definitely wrong about that one, Braden.
We were talking, we're like, oh, the 3 teams that can win the conference, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, and TCU. And he's like, Oklahoma still can. We're like, no, they can't.
I laughed. I was like, no, they can't. I was wrong. I will eat it. I will eat it.
If they win today, they win the conference, which will just make us all go, what?
Yeah, whatever. Wreck 'em, Tech. I hope they get wrecked.
I just have one word for Tech: frauds. This was probably my my cubicle buddy Chandler. He was talking about how good Tech is at home, how they're gonna go to Omaha, all this. I was like, you know what? Maybe I have been too hard on Tech. Maybe they are the team to kind of come out of the Big 12 this year. And then sure enough, frauds. They show up. They hand me just a crap sandwich. Say, here it is. Here's what you get for believing in us.
Yeah. It was that video that they put out where they were walking across the field saying that they were back because they were at home and they had the eye black going on and they're all walking off after they're winning against Oklahoma State. That was it. Put them right back in the dumpster.
If you like erase the left side of the T's that hang over, you get the beginning of an F, which spells out frauds. We should have known.
Yeah, maybe our Sean can do a little work on the side and get us some fraud.
We'll have
to be on a koozie.
We'll just say fraudulent, so it's the T in fraudulent. Add them to the University
Trash.
of the F Florida.
Trash. That's what the TT stands for. I hate that place. If you ever get a chance to go to Lubbock, Texas, avoid it. It's terrible.
You're not missing much if you go to Lubbock.
No. There's a Chimmy's, which, newsflash, there's Chimmy's in College Station and San Marcos. So it's just a chain restaurant. They sell tumbleweeds there. Their football team owes Mike Leach millions of dollars.
What is a tumbleweed?
You don't know what a tumbleweed is? When somebody says Lubbock, I picture tumbleweeds. That's it.
You've never seen The Big Lebowski? Like the.
Oh, you're talking about actual tumbleweeds? I thought you were like it was a bloomin' onion or something that they've called a tumbleweed or some shit.
The actual tumbleweed. They're terrible.
Oh man, you had my heart going. I was like, okay, I'll try that. I'll try anything that's fried.
There is a dance hall called Tumbleweeds by my house, Mark, but it's where all the old people go. So
I
might want to avoid that one.
I'm 36 now, man. I'm right there, right towards retirement.
You were just like 57 a week ago. I was 67.
That's why I had to throw on the Cabo pick again because I look too old. Man, you got really old in that picture. You got all the gray hair going. What happened?
What'd you say the other day, Noah? You were like, happy 57th birthday.
Happy 57th birthday.
I said something like Mark in his 67 years on this planet or something.
Yeah.
I'll try and find it.
Oh man, that was priceless.
67.
I had people ask me if I was really 57 years old that day. I was like, no, I'm 36, dicks.
I said Mark is a man's man. After 67 years on the planet, he has it all figured out.
So good.
I'm ready for Noah to go 1-9 this week. Give me that Ole Miss series. That's
If
gonna be
you
your
told
one.
me at the beginning of the week that I went 1-9, I would pick Ole Miss to be my winner. Unfortunately, I'm going 0-10.
Oh no.
This is for all the fans that accused us of cheating and rigging it. This proves that Noah doesn't cheat, that he's a man of honor.
Yeah, I'm a class act. That's why I've been 5-5 for the past month.
Hey, you got off that train though. You
Yeah,
did
I'm
say
not
you wanted to get off
5-5
the
this week.
5-5 train.
Yep, suck it.
You definitely jumped off the 5-5 train right into a swamp.
A Florida swamp. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a fraud.
Anything else baseball wise, guys? What do we got? I know.
Yeah.
You had one more comment come in.
Yeah, there's a giant moose behind me. I'm not in my usual recording spot. I'm in a different room.
Oh yeah, this is my last day in this house. I'm out. This is my last day, finishing moving out, and I'll be in a new location on Wednesday for the Wednesday show.
Oh, all right. I knew when I sat down that these antlers were going to be a problem. So then
They look like you're wearing them too.
Yeah, I did try and position myself. So
I just thought you were just trying to will Grand Canyon into this tournament and put them into a high 2 seed. So
that's it. Yep.
I thought you were a big Canadian Football League fan with the new Edmonton Elks. If that's what you were
Not
going for.
not since Johnny Manziel's experiment have I watched the CFL.
Good stuff.
Well, we'll see y'all Wednesday. Mark and I are going to continue to do the pregame show. We will have some conference spice in there, so be sure to tune in then.
Yeah, we'll get all set up for the conference tournaments coming up. Try to give you guys some info and maybe have the 16 national seeds up again, possibly. I don't know if I want to put them out again until after that conference tournament now.
No, any closing remarks?
Do college baseball, not cocaine.
See y'all Wednesday.
Go Beavs.